Hello, welcome to Newsmax Now. I'm John Bachman.
And I'm Miranda Kahn. Just ahead today.
She's out. Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis gets her freedom, just not all the religious freedom she wanted. We'll take a closer look at the judge's change of heart and what it means for those who flock to support her, including GOP candidates Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee.
And Senate Democrats clinch crucial votes to block a resolution against the Iran nuclear deal. But will Harry Reid actually go through with a filibuster and deny the country a chance to know where all of our senators stand? Plus, see why spending may cause Congress to lock horns and whether or not it could lead to another government shutdown.
No one from Jeb's campaign asked me if this was okay with me to raise money off my first show. Where's my cut of that sweet $3, Governor?
Well, the Stephen Colbert era begins on CBS's late show, I should say, with special guest Jeb Bush. But Bush and Colbert are feuding over a campaign fundraising flap. Will it lead to fireworks tonight, or is this all just pre-show hype? This is Newsmax Now.
And we hope all of you enjoyed your Labor Day holiday. Also today on Newsmax Now, the Pope makes a big announcement.
A huge announcement, we could say. But first, we head to Kentucky. Kim Davis was ordered released from jail by the judge who put her there in the first place after she refused to issue marriage licenses to gay couples in Rowan County, Kentucky. But U.S. District Judge David Bunning has warned Davis not to interfere with the license process moving forward. The judge did say he is now satisfied that Davis's deputies are meeting their obligation in granting licenses to same-sex couples.
Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war.
And a judge sentenced Davis to jail last Thursday. She quickly became a rallying cry for many Christian conservatives for defying a June Supreme Court ruling which legalized gay marriage. On Monday, Davis's lawyers took her case to a federal appeals court. They wanted her to be allowed to remove her name and title from marriage certificates issued in Rowan County. Word of Davis's release spread slowly through a crowd of supporters just outside the jail where Davis was being held. Some just couldn't believe the news. And just before the long holiday weekend, Davis's husband said his wife wouldn't cave and that he fully expected her to stay in jail.
No, they're not going to let her out, and she's not going to bow, I promise you that.
How long will she stay?
As long as it takes.
Well, apparently it took 5 days. This resolves the contempt of court issue, but the issue itself is probably not going away altogether. The Kim Davis episode has offered GOP presidential candidates a chance to appeal to voters who are strongly opposed to same-sex marriage. Those folks see Davis's imprisonment as a religious freedom issue, maybe a states' rights issue, not so much a constitutional Supreme Court issue.
Right. Today's release also came just before Davis was to receive jailhouse visits from presidential candidates Mike Huckabee, which you mentioned, and Ted Cruz. Huckabee was there when Davis was set free. He said after her release that he would even gone to jail for her.
After she was released.
After she was released. Here's the presidential candidate describing his support for her.
She has ignited something across this country where people are tired of the tyranny of judicial action that takes people's freedoms away and a tyranny of a legislative court that believes that it can make up law.
We'll see how much staying power this issue really has now that she's out of jail. I think it was a little aggressive to have her thrown in jail in the first place. You could have got the contempt of court issue, I think, accomplished by not actually sending her to jail. But, you know, this issue, we've seen the polling on this issue, and I wonder if guys like Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz made maybe a short-sighted move, although I'm sure they were well-meaning. But how is this going to play in a general election? They still have to win the general election, and we know that the majority of Americans outside of places like Rowan County, Kentucky, support gay marriage.
Right. And the other issue, too, though, she just doesn't want her name on the license, and they can't do that right away. That can't go into effect until January. So is she going to continue being there and allowing people to issue licenses but just not be able to do that personally? It's very tricky there.
And what Mike Huckabee brought up over the weekend, he talked about former San Francisco Mayor Gavin Newsom and his issuance of same-sex marriages after the state of California had passed a law making it illegal. Newsom tweeted out today that he stopped doing that when the judge told him to stop doing that. The other issue, too, that I think kind of trumps Huckabee's point is that the Supreme Court has ruled in on this case, meaning that there's no other, that's the high court and officially, I guess, the law of the land in this case. So unless Congress passes a constitutional amendment defining marriage as a union between one man and one woman, then, you know, it's the Supreme Court who has the final say in this case.
And this is tricky because will this set a precedent? Where does it end? As we brought up last week, we talked about the DMV, certain other agencies, are they going to be able to decide what's discrimination? How do you protect religious freedom without allowing discrimination and defying the law?
It's a very tricky one, and that's why I think this one captured so much attention.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Sure.
Let's go on now to your news front. And leading your news front today, President Obama now has enough votes to prevent the Senate from blocking his Iran nuclear deal. With 41 votes in support of the deal, the threshold to filibuster has been reached. Supporters of the deal are not declaring victory, though, quite yet. It's still not known if all 41 Democratic and independent senators on record are in favor of the deal, also support blocking a final vote on the disapproval resolution.
The city of Baltimore has now reached a final settlement with the family of Freddie Gray. That family will be given $6.4 million for his death. You'll remember he died while in police custody. The amount will be submitted to the Baltimore Board of Estimates for a vote this Wednesday. The death of Gray sparked protests and rioting in Baltimore last spring.
850,000 Syrian refugees are expected to cross the Mediterranean this year alone as they look for asylum in Europe. Germany says it can take in as much as 500,000 of them per year. And that has the U.S. now considering how it can help with the crisis, but no plans have been made as of yet. Thousands paid their final respect to Charles Glenowitz today. He's the Fox Lake police officer who was gunned down last week in cold blood while pumping gas.
During his 30 years of police service to the residents of Fox Lake, he touched the lives of countless citizens. He was reasonable, fair, and just.
The slain officer's funeral was followed by an 18-mile procession to his final resting place. Meanwhile, the search continues for his shooters.
Well, the woman who survived that on-air shooting that left 2 journalists dead has been released from the hospital. Vicki Gardner was answering reporters' questions during that live interview when a gunman, who was also a disgruntled former employee of that station, walked up and opened fire. Pope Francis is adding another issue to his list of reforms: annulments. The pontiff is revising the process by which Catholics can end their marriages and remarry into the church. The move will make the process much less expensive and less complicated.
And now we want to focus our attention back onto that Kentucky County Clerk, Kim Davis, who was released from jail. This happened this afternoon. It's a story that's not just making headlines on air, but also online, which is why it's a subject of today's rehash.
Let's take a look at some of the comments that caught our attention on Twitter. LOL GOP, obviously trolling the GOP here, writes, Kim Davis released from jail, disappointing the 33 remaining GOP candidates who had not visited her yet. I think only 17 still, technically.
Yeah.
Real candidates. Actress Aisha Tyler. I love her work on Archer. Not so much here. Kim Davis is the modern-day Governor George Wallace. He was on the wrong side of history, so is she and her supporters. Maybe so, maybe on the wrong side of history, but I think it's a little too far to compare her to George Wallace.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Donna Brazil writes, what's on your menu? Kim Davis is no Rosa Parks. Rosa was a champion for justice for all. Let's end discrimination. BuzzFeed posted this. A Kentucky clerk who kept getting confused for Kim Davis made an amazing T-shirt. You see the woman in a T-shirt that reads, "Hello, my name is not Kim Davis."
I don't know why she's getting confused.
I don't get it
Davis.
either. I'm looking at her. She looks nothing like Kim Davis.
Yeah, and the Rosa Parks comparison was an interesting one, too. I mean, the big issue there is Kim Davis was elected to hold office. She took an oath to uphold that office. Rosa Parks was a private citizzen. You know, a lot of metaphors and analogies were made to this, and I don't know if there is one that can really encapsulate what Kim Davis is trying to do there. It seems like kind of one of the last-ditch efforts from those who don't support or who aren't willing to get behind same-sex marriage to keep this out there in the forefront. Now, I respect their opinions, but again, this is a legal matter now. We'll talk about this coming up. John Kasich, the presidential candidate, said, look, you know, she has a responsibility to follow the law. I think it was interesting, too. A lot of the same people who talk about law and order when it comes to things like the border are encouraging her to not follow the law in this case.
Right.
You know?
No, that's an interesting point to make. I also want to know, were there a lot of people raising money for her to be released
from
jail? I want to know what's going to happen with that money now. And then again, what she's going to be doing. If she can't issue these licenses, is she going to just do certain tasks from now until January? If they consider to take her name off those licenses, it's going to be very tricky.
You know, when you no longer feel like you can perform the duties required of you, it's time to resign.
Right, but she's elected, so they can't just fire her. It's just, yeah.
All right, well, we want to hear from you. We know this is a divisive issue. You can reach out to us. Let us know how you feel. Reach out to us, newsmax.com/comments. You can tweet us at Newsmax Now. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, facebook.com/NewsmaxNow. And before we go, we have a special offer for you. Get a copy of Ben Carson's new book, One Nation, absolutely free, although you do have to pay shipping and handling. It's just $4.95. You can call 1-800-655-7567 right now. That's 1-800-655-7567. or visit newsmax.com/Ben. Coming up next on Newsmax Now, after 6 weeks, the man who shot Cecil the Lion comes out of hiding, although he says he wasn't hiding. See what greeted him on his first day back to work. And Sergeant Bo Bergdahl faces a new and rare charge, what it could mean for the accused deserter. And a 4-year-old boy and his dog are lucky to be alive after being trapped for hours. Where these emergency workers found them